Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Pixel Ship podcast. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, 2014. And as always, I am joined by Joel Hartlob,
Heyo.
Ryan Blandy,
Hello.
and today we have a special guest, Neil Lebo, who will be joining us today.
Greetings.
As always, we're going to talk about what we've been playing this week. Ryan apparently has only been playing one thing for most of the time, so let's get started with him.
Yeah, I'm playing the South Park game. I got it at 10 a.m. today, and I haven't stopped.
So
I think I stopped once to pee,
He claims he has not eaten
but
today.
I've not eaten.
well, you said cashews.
And I ate some cashews, and it's a delightful game. If you don't pick it up, you are an idiot.
It's kind of heavy, fan
What if you
service,
don't-
isn't it? Yeah, like what would you say that if it's not a South Park fan?
If you don't
is
like
that again?
South Park, then you're an idiot
Okay, well,
or a Christian.
as a game, how is it?
It's very reminiscent of Costume Quest / Super Mario RPG / Paper Mario.
Super Mario RPG is in like timing or just as in
Yes.
the combats? Oh, really?
Yes. Both the combat being turn based and then the actual like hitting for blocking and attacking.
Huh.
It's very good. Funny as all get out. Everybody's voiced. Everyone.
Really?
all
So
of it.
there's no real like text on screen kind of reading page after
Nope.
page of dialogue?
Nope.
That's pretty
It
impressive.
is like you're playing the show.
Do you
That is impressive, considering there's like 2 voice actors.
That's a very good point. Yeah, did they do the same? All the voices, well, most of the voices at least for the video game?
Yeah, like everybody's the same. I haven't encountered one character that was not the actual voice.
I'm going
Would
to
you
assume that Chef is not in the game.
Apparently, I have seen screenshots.
Yeah?
Chef might be in the game.
Wow.
So I guess then that kind of answers my question, but is any of the dialogue recycled from the show itself? Like, do you walk up
No.
to people and they kind of say their catchphrase and you kind of walk away?
Nope.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I
It's
imagine
pretty
if
much all
Chef
new,
is in
like,
the game.
Every now and then, like you'll have they do like put the radio on or the TV on
Okay.
in the background if you're in a living room or in a waiting room, what have you. And they'll just have like the past songs of previous episodes, or they'll play Terrence and Phillip episodes. There's different items. A lot of it is junk that you can just sell. One is the Sword of 1,000 Truths. It's worth $1.20. I will not sell it.
So there's
the
a lot
only
of
junk I would
in-jokes
sell.
and self-referential humor in the game.
Yes.
Do you think that without knowing anything about the show, for some reason, if you've managed not to watch the show, but like that kind of humor, like, is it funny on its own merit, or is it
Oh yeah.
self-referential?
You'll learn real fast about the people's.
Okay. Excellent. Would you say, like, there's a lot of repeated dialogue? Like, a lot of times in RPGs, if you click on someone a bunch of times, they just kind of keep spilling the same thing over and over and
No,
over.
I mean, obviously that's going to happen. But most people have at least 1 or 2 lines of dialogue. If you click on them, talk to them like every 10 seconds.
So you're about, 9 hours in, 8 hours in at this point?
Yeah, but I did a lot of side questing.
What would you say is the strongest part of this game so far? Because you're probably, about halfway through, maybe a little bit less?
I don't know. I had one day in South Park.
Okay. I heard the
Might be
game
really long.
finishes under 20 hours. I don't know how much of
not
that.
with me.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is kind of straight shot. I don't know how much of that is side quest.
There's
stuff.
a lot of side questing. There's a lot of side questing that I did almost immediately after getting out and about. Gained some levels with Butters.
Is it so? Does the areas change? Like,
I mean, it's the town.
right? But what I'm saying is, if you played the game long enough, you're just going to see the same stuff happen, or is that not accurate?
What do you mean the same stuff happen?
So what I would mean would be, you're saying there's side quests, but you're always going to have a shop. You're always going to have all that in the same spot.
There's different shops. Yeah, there's it just depends on where you're going. I mean, you want to change your face, you can go to Tom's Rhinoplasty.
Right. What I'm really getting at is like with like Skyrim has like random quest generation, stuff like that.
Oh no!
So it's never going to be the same game. With South Park, you could play the exact same game. Is that?
Yeah, it's a turn-based RPG.
It's going to be more like a Mass Effect than it would
Gotcha.
be a Skyrim.
Gotcha.
Whereas like all the side quests are pre-built in and they're going to come up at certain times based on what happens.
It sounds interesting. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I spent $60 on a game though. I don't know if it's we just kind
Saints
of
Row 4.
Okay. I
was
still
fun on
have
New
not
Vegas
picked
for
up
me.
Saints Row 4. I owe you an apology, Joel.
It's a delight. It's amazing. It's hilarious. Yeah, I'm just having a ball. I have nothing bad to say about it.
Excellent. Well, presumably you're going to finish it, within a week if you're playing it with this much fervor. So
At least.
we'll follow up next week and kind of say, can I safely assume you haven't played anything else this week?
Well, me and Neil played, but I'll let him bring that up.
Okay. And then other than the stuff that we're all inevitably going to talk about toward the end. But all right, Joel, what have you been playing this week?
I played Diablo 3 a little bit just to kind of
Nice.
check out the new patch.
Okay. Now the patch that's not the expansion set, right? It's just
Correct.
the
The
rebalancing.
expansion set, right? The expansion set comes out in March 25th,
Oh.
and the new patch was like a precursor to it, kind of like a preparatory thing.
Mm-hmm.
Setting up the new Loot 2.0 system and all that stuff.
Anything
the auction
noticeably
houses,
different?
The difficulties have changed. Like before, it was
Right.
normal, nightmare, and hell difficulties.
Mhm.
There might have been another one too. I don't know.
It was just
but
those three.
But they changed it now so that you have normal, hard, and like there's like another one or two, and then there's like torment difficulty, which you have to like beat hard or something. I don't know. I don't really know that much about the whole like new difficulty system. All I know is my character's like level 46, and I know that the world actually, even no matter what difficulty you're in, like say you're in normal, the monsters that you face still level up with you. So if you're in normal difficulty and you're level 45, you're still going to face enemies that are like probably not really going to threaten you that much, but will still be stronger than what you would face as a level like 20.
They're trying to take away loot runs, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Gold farming.
the thing with that too is they're introducing stuff that are loot runs. Like essentially they're introducing like these like 15-20 minute dungeons, like randomly generated dungeons that are loot runs.
Now, but what's the harm
But-
of keeping gold farming if they're taking the real money auction house and all this stuff out of the game? Is it just
I don't know how, like gold still doesn't seem to have that much of a purpose.
okay?
Um,
Well, at least like
Right.
loot runs, like if
Right.
they've removed the option for you to pay for items, then theoretically they have no value at this point. Like
Well,
accruing
I mean,
gold
even-
doesn't matter.
Even in Diablo 2, like people still did loot runs all the time because that's how you got the items for your characters that you wanted.
Okay.
The big thing too now is I've noticed that a lot of items are bind on a count. So, like the legendary items that they have, which were I guess similar, at least similar to the unique items that they had in Diablo 2.
Yeah.
Basically, they're bind on account, so you can't trade them anyway.
Okay.
Unless you can trade them within like 2 hours to someone that was like fighting the monster with you or something like that. So like they're pretty much like just taking trade out of it entirely.
Well, that really screws mules too. I don't know. I don't see that as a good addition.
I don't either. I mean, like I understand the reason behind taking out the auction houses. Like I understand that. I didn't personally mind the gold, like just the gold money auction house. I didn't like the real money auction house. I thought it was that pay to win sort of thing. But in the end, I guess with gold farming, the gold auction house kind of turns into the same thing. But like they aren't giving any, from what I've seen, they haven't introduced any avenues for trade. Aside from you being there with the person, like you being in the game when the loot drops. And I think that was one of the big things that drove Diablo 2 for so long was, I mean, obviously there was like hackers and all that stuff, but I think the constantly online and the DRM that they have set up to kind of help prevent that, at least to some extent. But they've kind of taking out that, like, a pretty vital aspect. Like, what's the point of, I don't know. They're kind of limiting the reason to interact with other people and stuff on some level by taking that stuff out. Like they introduced the smart loot system, which means like most of the items that you're gonna get are gonna be geared toward your character. Like
that's cool though.
Yeah, that's nice. Which it kind of lessens the need for trade. But like I was playing my monk, and every item I got had dexterity and vitality on it, pretty much, or was in some way garnered to strengthen the monk. Which kind of sucks though, because then you don't get the proper equipment for your mercenaries.
Yeah.
But still, like, it doesn't mean, like, you could do one of those, like, loot runs that they're creating, like, maybe, like, 100 times and still not get, like, the specific item that you're looking for.
I guess the real question then is, are all these changes, all these adjustments, all of these calibrations that they're doing, is that enough for you to give the expansion shot a try? Like, are you interested in the game again? Like, did you enjoy replaying it enough to go out and spend, $40, $50, whatever the expansion's going to cost?
I'll be honest, I'll probably get it.
Okay.
I mean, like, it has the new patch did make me like it. I like playing it again. I need to turn the difficulty up because normal's just kind of like boring and easy. So next time I go in, I'm gonna turn it up to hard and see what happens. But
I mean, it's a reasonable strategy. They got back in the news. They got people's attention. The people who actually care enough about that game probably hopped on to see how it affected the gameplay, and maybe they are, starving for some more content. So it'll be pretty interesting.
right.
I never thought Blizzard used to take an unbelievably long amount of time to come out with games.
Yes.
They still
you
do.
don't think they still do?
They still do.
Still-
But I've never seen them nerf a game as much as they're doing with Diablo 3.
I feel
mean,
like they did a lot of
constant-
backpedaling with that game.
Oh my god, it was ridiculous. So you'd pick a class, you'd pick something, and even if it's a minor exploit, even if it's something that is slightly overpowered, they nerf it beyond all belief. So your entire build is just unviable after that.
They do that. Well, at least they used to. I don't know how much they do it now, but when World of Warcraft first came out, they did that a lot too. Like they would completely, like once, especially for PvP, when people like diminishing returns and stuff, a lot of that came through from like PvP testing and whatnot. And like they did that a lot. I don't know if they've done it as much as they have for Diablo 3, but
I mean, in their defense, they have, some of the most difficult audiences to please. They have probably the most hardcore, obsessive, games out there. I mean, they've been playing StarCraft since fucking 1963 or whenever the hell the game came out.
and 98, 63, whatever.
Yeah, same difference.
Close.
But, everything they come out with is just torn apart at, everything has to be perfect from that company because they don't have anything that's casual. They don't have anything that people play and then kind of move on to the next game. It's Blizzard releases a game and then you obsess over it until they decide to grace you with another game. Like, that has to be difficult.
But I think that's says a lot of good about them.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying that they're not an amazing developer. I'm just saying that you scrutinize every last thing. I mean, how broken are some of the Assassin's Creed games? You're like, another one's coming out next year. They'll figure it out and fix it for the next round.
Right, but I don't think we're scrutinizing with Diablo 3. They released 1/4 of a full game and then just made you change the difficulty to play through. It was half-assed to the nth degree, and I think that's because of is it Activision that took over?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it's because of them taking over and just trying to cash in on the namesake.
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know about that, because I look back at Diablo 2 when it first started getting run through too, and it's the same thing though. It was
lengthwise gameplay.
The idea, like it's the same concept for both. I don't know about lengthwise because I felt like Diablo 2 took a long time to go through the first time through.
It really did, yeah.
But I mean, it's the same concept. You release and they stuck with that concept based on the popularity of Diablo 2 and Diablo 1 to some extent too. But just the fact that it is that replayability. I mean, look at Borderlands 2 now. They did a similar thing with the Vault Hunter mode.
Sure, but I feel like, I don't remember. I've played a little bit of 1. I've played most of 2. But I feel like what kept me going back to those games were their length. Like, I finished Diablo 3 in a couple weeks, if not a collection of days.
Right.
Once I beat a game like that, if I can finish a game in a week or 2, I don't go back to it. But if a game can kind of keep me going, I think that's what kind of draws me to RPGs is, you invest a month or 2 into a game, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm almost at the end, and it's that push. Diablo 3, I got to the end, and I'm like, okay, I saw everything. I'm pretty much done. I don't need the super lightsaber or the, wings of Icarus or whatever, all the unlocks are.
Right, and the thing with the higher difficulties is you can only play with 3 other people at once. Yeah. So it's not like it's this open format kind of thing that will keep you coming back. And PvP, I've honestly never played it. I
haven't either.
Last time I logged in, I was at Act 2 of Hell. Is as far as I got before I just finally gave up the ghost. I was like, no way. You get to a point where you can't get the equipment, and after you farm these stupid loot goblins for 12 to 300 hours, you're just like, no, this is not. I have better ways to spend my time, and there are better games to spend my time on.
Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, though. We have game night. We kind of get together once a week and all play games together. But, maybe there is a very specific audience out there who do the same thing, but they can just kind of play around and click around, and they don't mind playing the same game over and over and over, and kind of collecting new stuff if it's just, what is essentially an interactive chat room. Maybe that is their primary audience. Is there that hardcore scene like there was for Diablo 2?
I don't think it's quite as strong as it was in Diablo 2.
I always feel like there were so many mods and so many, write-ups and reviews and,
For Diablo, I don't know, Diablo 2, it was, I think because it was it wasn't necessarily the first of its kind, but it was one of the best.
It was special.
It was technically kind of the second. Diablo 1 was one of the first ones that was really successful with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Diablo 2 was really where they hit their stride with it. And they're trying to capitalize off the success of that, but also trying to, I don't know, I feel like they've taken away that community to some level. Though I have noticed that before, I never really saw general chat or anything like that, but they actually do have, I've noticed the general chat has actually come up in my games a lot. So they have in some way kind of brought back that old sort of thing.
Is it all people spamming buy gold on eBay.com?
Yeah, usually.
That's
or at
not
least
what
that's
I want
how
out
it was.
of my video games. That is just extremely frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Chinese gold farmers.
Alright, well, other than Diablo, have you fired anything else up?
Elder Scrolls beta, but...
Okay. Is that something we can talk about? Is there...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give us a quick overview of that. I mean, I am a huge Skyrim fan, and I am not even the slightest MMORPG fan. So how about you sell it to me? If you know I don't like MMORPGs, how Elder Scrollsy is it that I wouldn't care that I'm just clicking on shit for hours?
Well,
on
I'm
end?
just gonna. If you don't like MMORPGs, there's no point in playing it.
Okay. Well, then
I mean,
why do you
I mean,
like
I'm just
it?
gonna put it that way because it's essentially. I mean, personally, like we also have to note that this beta that they put out this weekend
Mhm.
was also like 3 months old.
Sure, yeah, it's a beta.
It's a couple months old. I mean, it's not what they're playing with now. Like I know they've introduced features with the. At least they've talked about like collision detection and stuff like that for NPCs, which wasn't in this beta, but they have introduced it at least in the current like developer beta or whatever.
But the gameplay and the way the missions are structured and the overall world, like that stuff's pretty much nailed down, isn't it?
Should be. There's still a lot of bugs, but like I said, this is an
Sure.
old one, so they've probably fixed a lot of those bugs. Like a lot of the quests were just, some of the quests were just broken, kind of, which is a little frustrating in some sense. It had me a little worried at first because I didn't realize it was an older version. Just because I honestly, I got the email and was like, oh crap, yeah, let's do this.
Let's jump on.
Yeah. But it kind of worried me a little bit because it didn't feel like the game was ready for launch. You know, just with the number of bugs. Like,
Well, it's
there's
not.
a lot of right, obviously. But I mean, like, even with it being like a month away.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it just seemed like there was a lot that is still needed. But after realizing it was an older version and that I'm assuming they've gotten most of those bugs fixed, like they fixed the quest, and the one particular annoying one was you would often like you would go to craft, go to a crafting station or you would like talk to an NPC and you would just get stuck in the conversation with them. Like the conversation would end, you would go to leave, but the like the interface wouldn't zoom out from it. Like you could bring up your menu and all this stuff, but you like couldn't.
Ugh. So
But it
kind
ended up
game breaking-y.
right. But you could just, I mean, all you had to do was type /reload UI and everything worked out.
Okay.
It was just annoying that you had to do it. You know, it's like that kind of stuff like that, little things like that that needed fixed, but like didn't really break the game, but like definitely didn't make the game feel finished. Okay.
Is this game is it completely done by Bethesda, or did they bring somebody else in?
It's third party, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
I want to say it's not like a Todd Howard vision.
I don't know. I don't know. I can check that one out. But
I mean, as far as it goes, I love Bethesda. They're
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite game makers, but they make glitchy games, man.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
do.
That's just how they do it.
Some may
True.
say unplayable broken games in some
Right.
cases. I'm looking at you, Fallout 3 for the PS3 that I cannot even play.
Yeah. Well, and Skyrim for the PS3. And
Everything for the PS3.
They
yeah,
just-
but honestly, I feel like if you really want to get the full experience with those games, you got to get them for PC anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree, but that's not fair. That is
Right.
not
I
fair
know.
because
Not
I
fair
bought
at
it
all.
on the PS3 and it was broken and I was pissed.
It doesn't give them excuse. I'm sorry. It doesn't give them an excuse for releasing a broken game. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The real experience from those games, a lot of times, like aside from like you get a pretty good solid base game, but the mods a lot of times really are what make those games.
How
guess
about
that's
the
true.
world size?
I don't know because I didn't even get out of this. Like, you basically, I didn't even get to level 10 because aside, which I actually was kind of happy with because a lot of games you'll play these days, it's like, it's just a freaking rush to the max level, and it takes like you could probably dedicate maybe 2-3 days solid and be there. Like there's no difficulty there. There's no like work. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be work, but you know what I mean. Like there's no
A challenge?
exactly. There's no challenge to it. You don't feel rewarded when you actually get there because it's like, oh wow, it took me 6 hours to get to level 60. Great. So I only got to level 8, and I played. I don't know. I couldn't even count, but I played a lot over the weekend.
But you
anyway-
happy with it? You think you're going to pay for it when it comes out? Or at least, the
Yeah,
first couple
probably.
months?
I mean, if I'm in the mood for like an MMO type game, that's the thing too. I like to go through those moods.
I mean,
In and out.
the lore and the world are interesting to me. I
Right.
love Morrowind. I love Oblivion. I love Skyrim. if it was any other form of game, like even a text adventure, I might even be slightly interested in it. But
It's you're gonna get the same level. I mean, for what I've seen, you're gonna get the same level of like story and character interaction. I mean, like every character is voiced, and it's your typical Oblivion, Skyrim voices. You'll
sure,
it's the same ones they always use.
Halt, criminal
and-
scum.
And yeah, and they also have the other they have like the famous people in there too.
Patrick
Blandy,
Stewart in it.
I don't know.
Then I don't care.
Blandy,
Like right away, you get Dumbledore. Like right away, you get Dumbledore, and then John Cleese isn't far behind. Then,
All right.
And I know there was like a whole cast, a list of the cast that they put out, which was crazy. There's a lot of names in there, but you're gonna get a lot of that. Like it's gonna be the same. I mean, I think what people might not like about it, if they're going in thinking of like comparing it to the other Elder Scrolls games, right? And the other Elder Scrolls games, you're talking about a lot of freedom and a lot of customizability.
A lot of wandering.
A lot of
a lot of picking flowers.
A lot of picking
And
flowers.
there's a little bit of that in this one. I think to a lesser extent, far lesser extent. I mean, I think you it's a lot easier to get loaded up into the action. One, because enemies respawn, right? Which they don't do in Skyrim, like the other Elder Scrolls games, right? But like what you're gonna find fault with, and it's the same thing that I think Ryan Blandy had issues with here, was the fact that you have to pick a class, and some of your abilities are limited to your class.
There is no jack of all trades.
No, I mean like
Middle of the road.
they're like all the classes. I mean, at least the two I played have several roles that they can go through, just like any MMO. But you're still limited in like there's like a theme to the character, like their abilities have a theme to them, and you're still limited to the abilities that are towards your class. The caveat to that is that this, unlike other MMOs, it still follows that Elder Scrolls sort of philosophy that any class can pretty much equip any item.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen any items that were restricted at all. So like you could be a sorcerer wearing full plate and wielding a two-handed sword,
But not effectively ever.
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
Depends
so
on
you
what
can kind of level up your heavy armor enough as a mage and be kind of this big walking wall.
Be a battle mage,
Sure.
right? I mean, you can specify like you still have your enchanting and alchemy and all that stuff, which you can use to mold the different equipment. You just have to look at like specifically with the armors. And you have to look at like you get skills based on your armors. Like so, every class has access to all those skills, and they all have access to all the weapon skills. The only thing that you don't have access to is like the full range of magic, right? That's the one thing that's kind of so like I
want my magic.
The magical skills and stuff that you use are more based on the class that you pick over anything else. So you could be a sorcerer wearing full plate and a sword, two-handed sword, but you're probably going to fill a more specific role. Like the armor that you have equipped and whatnot is probably going to be more garnered towards protection and everything than it would be towards like boosting your magicka.
Okay.
Right. So like.
But it's still relying on the party system, where Skyrim and those games, you're out on your own. Short of a couple useless NPCs or immortal NPCs,
and that's what I mean. Like if you don't like MMOs, if you don't like playing with other people, and you just want a single player experience, then don't get it. Because I mean, it's just like any MMO. Like,
sure.
You shouldn't pick up an MMO with the thought that you're going to play it entirely single player.
Yeah, but I had this conundrum with Knights of the Old Republic. I'm like, man, I really love Star Wars, but I really, really hate MMORPGs.
Right.
And so I passed it up. I'll live vicariously through you then. I'll come over and just watch you play it for a couple hours.
That's fine.
What about stealing? Can you steal in this game? I mean, that was a big part of.
There's got to be a thieves guild or something like
that.
Yeah.
There might be a thieves guild. I'm sure there is, because there's a mage and fighters guild, and you can join both of them.
But are you talking about stealing 1,000 wheels of cheese from the local grocer?
Nah, I don't.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
From what I could tell, there's nothing like that. I didn't really play like a thieving. Didn't play the Nightblade or any class that really snuck around. I played the Templar personally, but
Yeah, and there were only 4 classes.
That is the other thing that was kind of awkward.
That might change.
Is that final or
As far as I know.
for
but
now at least? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure
I'm
expansion
sure they'll
sets and what
introduce
have you.
more as time goes on, but
All right.
yeah. I mean, the things, I talked to Brian Blandy about this at length the other night.
I just
but,
wasn't impressed.
right. But I also, you didn't play it much beyond like the first couple hours that you did, right?
Yeah, no.
Right.
I stopped.
Right.
I went like, nah.
When I first picked it up, I rolled in, I started playing it, I was like, I couldn't stand it. You know, like I was like, this kind of sucks. Like, I'm not really feeling this, right?
Mhm.
I decided to give it another try because I wanted to give it I like to give it its full due before I really make a decision. You know, I played for maybe like 3 hours the first time, went back in, created a new character, started playing it, and for some reason the second time I went through it, I don't know, it just seemed a lot better, and nothing changed in the game.
All
It was
right.
just something different, and I think part of what it was is like originally when they came up with the concept, or at least when they were developing it, I remember reading some stuff that they didn't want to include first person view, which was a huge problem for a lot of fans.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's like a major part of those games.
Well, it kind of breaks the role playing kind of mantra that
it's that immersion. You know, you
Yeah.
you the immersion when you come out the third person.
this
okay?
is my world.
So they included that, and I think the lack of collision and some other stuff, just like they ended up including it after the fact, like once they realized that there was a lot of backlash about it. And I think the lack of collision and maybe it hadn't been fully implemented to like their designs yet or whatever, it just didn't work for me. And then when I was like playing again later, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try zooming out and playing it in third person, and it was like a completely different game.
Yeah, and to be
A
fair,
better
that
game?
wasn't part of their design doc, so you can't hold that against them. They did
Right.
that as a, let's move the camera slightly forward. Fine. I
And
don't-
yes, I mean, to answer your question, in my opinion, yes, it was a better game in third person than it was in first person.
False. I don't agree.
The Bethesda games are always so clunky when it comes to combat in third person, which
Yeah.
worries me a little bit
Which
about.
is not the case with this.
It's not the
Like,
case.
because I agree with you.
Well, it's not real time. You're not targeting. It's you're
It
kind of
is
locking
actually
onto
no,
these things.
no.
Oh, really?
No. It is more like you're gonna find it more like the Oblivion combat or like Skyrim combat. Not quite Skyrim level, but more the
Okay.
Oblivion style of combat than anything else. Like there's still blocking. Like
So
you
awkward and
control-
slow.
It's a much more it's a much more action oriented combat system, and I actually really enjoyed that part about it, because it's completely different than any of the other MMOs I've played. Like I think there was one that came out somewhat recently that had something similar. It was like some Japanese anime crap. I can't remember what the hell it was. But there was something. There was one that had like a action-oriented combat system, and I don't think it did very well. But it also like even in like beta and stuff, I don't think there was a whole lot of there were people that liked it but weren't really like on board with it. I don't know. But like this one, like it feels good. Like like there's still some of that casting time and all that stuff, and you have to be within a certain range to be able to try this stuff. And I think the spells and stuff are auto aim. Like
Yeah.
they'll always hit if you're close enough.
Sure.
But you can swing, but you could be too far away to hit, and you can dodge around and block and dual wield and all that stuff.
I mean,
And
it sounds interesting. I don't know if it's my cup of tea, but thanks to the glory of the internet, I can jump on the Let's Play for a couple hours, get my fill, get an idea for the story is, and just bug you for updates about stuff like that.
there we go.
Excellent. Well, Neil, what have you been playing this week?
I played quite a bit. I played a lot of turn-based strategy. So, Eodor, Masters of the Broken World. Played a good amount of that.
I haven't even heard of that. What's that about?
It's turn-based strategy. It's much in the vein of what would it be like? Heroes of Might and Magic, I guess.
Okay. Is it a relatively modern game, like within the past 5 years?
Yeah,
Oh.
definitely. It came out think it came out not even a year ago.
Oh, excellent.
So yeah, it's a cool game. It's you choose a hero. Well, you start with a castle, and then you make a hero. You upgrade your castle, and your hero goes around trying to take over land. I mean, it's nothing. It's really cool looking. It's also they have different worlds that you can go to within the same game. So like
parallel
the campaign
worlds.
not really parallel. It's more like in the cosmos, like going to another world. There's no like space travel or anything like that, but through magic you travel to these other worlds.
Yeah,
right.
Magic spaceship. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. It's a cool game. Once you actually get into the skirmishes, it's a little simplified. But yeah, it's I don't know. I guess I'd rate it like 7 out of 10. For me, I just like that style of game. I really liked Heroes of Might and Magic when I was young.
I loved Heroes of Might and Magic too when I was a kid, but I don't know if I have the patience for games like that. I think the Fire Emblem games are the closest I can get to that turn-based strategy that kind of scratches that itch, but I cannot play that game for 4 or 5 hours at a time. Like, that is I can pop in Final Fantasy Tactics, I can pop in Fire Emblem, and stop, a couple days later.
Well, yeah, I just that's my kind of strategy games are my niche. That's what I like. So when it comes to it's either real time or turn based, I don't care. I'm gonna give them a shot. And for the most part, I normally like them. This didn't disappoint me. It was a little glitchy, and it was, as you said, slow moving. You definitely, when you get into a world, you have to devote. It's like a 10-hour kind of investment into each world. So it's.
But I don't think
had
that's a
45
fault.
hours into the game, and I haven't really scratched the surface.
I think those games are intended to be an investment. I think, kind of building, your troops or building your towns or whatever it is you're kind of working on, I think that is a huge part of the game.
Right.
I think slow moving is not necessarily a downside as opposed to like a first person shooter. It's part of the equation.
So, and I also did fire up the new Might and Magic 6.
Okay, how's that?
I tried that. I only played for probably about an hour. Glorious game. I mean, it really it's not near as slow moving as Eodor is, and it's not near as slow moving as they used to be. Even as Might and Magic 5. It's definitely they've got it tweaked, and I wouldn't say it's a perfect game, but it's much closer to that kind of that hitting its stride like it always should have.
They've had a lot of practice in making those games, though.
Right.
If anyone should have that down to a science.
Right. It would be them.
So you're saying the hour of gameplay was not out of want, it was out of that is all you had time to play. You're definitely going to go back to it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I could see myself losing days in the game.
Yeah.
So, and I went over to Ryan's to check out this whole PS4 thing that he's been talking about. Not impressed. Not impressed really at all. I got to be honest.
What did you play?
I played Outlast.
Okay.
Which is a shit game. That game is not good.
I heard that game was terrifying.
It is terrifying until you try to get past the generators in the beginning.
Well, yeah, it's a game of tedium, really. There's nothing interesting like Silent Hill. There's no like.
Did you play Amnesia? I kind of assumed that was its closer kind of kin.
I own Amnesia, but I've never played it.
Okay.
And it's
thanks Steam sale.
Yeah, Steam sale. I've got I don't know.
I'm the same way.
150 games bought on sale that I'll probably play 30 of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not for me, and I can honestly say I don't think it's for very many people. I think it's a way for them to show a little bit of their new technology, but though I'm not impressed with the graphics, I'm not really impressed with the movement. You can look behind you while running. I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay.
But that's about it. That's where it ended. I thought that it was cool that you could run and look behind you.
What else did you play?
I played, what is that, Battlefield?
Okay, Battlefield 4.
Yeah. Once again,
Plays like
my
a Battlefield
style of
game.
Yeah, it's a Battlefield game. and
Shoot
it's not-
commies, hide in holes.
Right. And then
Looks nice though. I would have to say that was probably the best looking game I played on the PS4.
I'll agree. Yeah, it definitely did look good. And it moves well. And the controls are intuitive. It's a good game. It's just not my kind of game.
Sure.
And then I played the new Assassin's Creed that isn't that new anymore.
Yeah, the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right, the Pirates game. Looked okay. I really do like the movement system in the Assassin's Creed games. Speaking of intuitive, I mean, that game plays itself. You
just kind of hold down a button in a direction and you just kind of start doing stuff.
Right, and it's not at control of you. It's just okay. Now I'm going to climb this now. I guess I have no idea.
I played a good chunk of 4, and I equate it to a refreshing glass of water after getting a really bitter taste in your mouth. That is Assassin's Creed 3. I enjoyed Assassin's Creed 4. You know how much I've played of it. But I feel a lot of that has to do with I was just so pissed off after Assassin's Creed 3. I'm just like, hey, this is passable, and it is, essentially the same gameplay as 2 with ships, so this is awesome. It's...
Oh, I do want to talk about the ship combat. That was really cool. And I think it's everybody said it, so I don't really need to say that much about it. But actually experiencing it, I do like it. It's something that I haven't played a game like that.
I think the plunder system is cool, like how you're checking out to see what they have, if it's something you need or not. I thought that was pretty clever.
I actually didn't even get that far.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Spoilers, sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm probably not going to play it again. That's a lie. I'll play it again, but it'll be a while. And then the next game we played was actually a PS3 game, and I adore it. I think it's really good. What is it called, Ryan? The Last of Us?
What, Last of Us?
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah. That game is fantastic. I mean, there's almost no use in talking about it. It's been talked to death, but you are doing yourself a favor by playing that game. If you have not played it, it's been said 1,000 times before. Just the story and the characters and the world are interesting.
Yeah.
It's a zombie game, and yet I don't care because it's interesting. Like, it's not, slaughter these zombies. Like, they're funguses and they're mutated and all this stuff. Like, it's still a zombie game, and it turns out that we are the monsters just like every other zombie game, but it's great.
Well, they bring in that dystopian thing with it. That kind of like the element of rebellion, a little bit of like BioShock Infinite kind of
that oppressive government, like hunting people down. It's like, well, we have a better chance out with the zombies. It's like, yeah,
yeah. I really do think it's extraordinarily well done. And Ryan did tell me that it was up for Game of the Year and missed out because of Grand Theft Auto, and I think that's kind of a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, awards are just like every other award ceremony. I think if you base, what is good and what is bad off what comes up in the Oscars and what comes up in video game awards and Grammys and all that, you're going to miss out on a lot of great stuff.
I guess that's true. That's accurate. So yeah, no, it definitely gets my vote. Ryan was stuck at a part, which was I helped him beat the first time through, which was pretty cool.
Seems to happen a lot for Ryan.
Bull crap.
So what did you think about the controller?
I like the controller. Ryan did have an Xbox One controller.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I definitely prefer it for me. I've got larger hands.
Okay.
The PS4 controller is definitely for people with smaller hands. It's got a wider set, so your hands are spread farther apart.
Yeah.
Which it took a little getting used to. It's definitely noticeable. I don't think it's going to change your overall experience of the game or gameplay, but it's just something to note.
I think I almost like it more than the Xbox controller. I'm also a PS3 player, so I've used that for the old DualShock. I just think the little grooves and the way it fits your hand. I understand if you've got larger hands, it's kind of hard to find something that fits, but I think they made a lot of improvements.
I mean, it's definitely improved from the 6-axis, but it's, I mean, it's basically the same controller. Like, I mean,
Since
Yeah, but
PS1.
the Xbox One controller is basically the same controller.
right, but I really
Yeah.
like that controller.
All right, then I
and that's
guess
what I played.
the thing that we all played this week was a little bit of the Oculus Rift. A buddy of ours
Yes.
kind of brought it down, and we all got to spend a little bit of time with it. I got to play the minecart roller coaster demo. That was probably the best way to kind of get you situated. You're just kind of sitting in the car looking around, just kind of getting a feel. I think that it is a really, really, really interesting piece of tech. Obviously, it's a dev kit. It is, a lower resolution. It is, not as responsive. The refresh rate isn't fantastic. That might have had a little bit to do with the hardware we're running it on. But as a proof of concept and as something that I am super excited for when they have a commercial release, the 1080p. I think the resolution they were running was, I want to say, like 700 or 600 by 800 or something like that. But it's just really, really cool to be able to look around a space, to be able to have an experience that is not everything in my peripheral is my cluttered desk or, books on a shelf or something like that. It is, I am in this world, and this is what we're doing, 100% of my focus. So yeah, I'm just kind of interested what you guys thought about it, if it's something that you would be interested in picking up eventually, and kind of what you hope to see from it.
What? It's amazing. It's a purchase. It sold me. When that commercial time, I don't care what it costs. It's time to buy. It's a must-have. As everybody knows, I play Team Fortress 2 a lot.
Yeah.
And that made that game so fresh and so new that, yeah, when it's released, yes, I will be picking it up.
Now, did you feel hindered
was
by the
amazing.
controls at all, or do you think that's just a matter of a learning curve?
Oh, that's just how our friend Nate had the control scheme. I'm pretty sure if we would have reworked that for the controller, he had it weird. So that wasn't even an issue. I should have fixed it, but I was more concerned on looking around myself.
I mean, there's no doubt that it's cool. Like, the immersion is fantastic. But, I mean, what about people? Did anyone kind of experience any of the motion sickness that was kind of the biggest problem?
I don't normally have issues with motion sickness, but like the refresh rate or the blurriness of it when like going through sharp turns and stuff like that on that roller coaster,
Yeah.
definitely started to make me feel a bit on the queasy side. And I don't know, like I said, I don't normally have any issues with that, but that was throwing me off a little bit. Which I'm sure that kind of stuff would be addressed, and it was, like you said earlier, it was.
I think a lot of that was the hardware wasn't up to snuff for what we were putting it through.
Right.
Because you're essentially rendering the same thing twice. I don't know a lot about how the thing renders, but it is an additional display. It kind of splits the information. It's
And like that was the only time I had problems was with the quick turns. When going down that big ass hill and all that stuff, I was fine. Like I thought it was cool, and like I was looking around and like looking at all the stuff, but just like those quick turns with the blurriness, like that, the blurriness and the lack of focus, just really is what kind of threw me off a little bit there.
I think that on solo games, it's gonna be cool, and it's gonna be immersive, and it's gonna be something that you can do. On multiplayer games like Team Fortress, I think it's always going to be crippling for you. I really do.
I think it's that controller versus keyboard and mouse kind of thing. It's like, one's just so precise. It's
Right, and I think the refresh rate is still not going to be up to speed. Even when they do come out with 1080p, I don't think it's going to be like what our monitors are. Like that kind of speed.
So, while I think that's the case for first-person shooters, I would argue that something like a racing game or space combat game, you might even have the advantage. I think that may be the joystick to keyboard and mouse for those games, or racing wheel to keyboard and mouse. Like the level of precision you can get by just being able to look over your shoulder real quick, or getting a better feel for your car and where you're placed on the track, or kind of where you're situated in outer space. That's where I'm most excited.
I think with like the racing games and stuff, it might help as far as like a first-person viewpoint goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think you're better set just in a third-person view there.
What are you, a savage? No, you play racing games in first person.
Absolutely not.
Unless it's Mario Kart. No, none of this third-person stuff. No.
I don't think I've ever played any racing game in first person for more than like 5-10 minutes just to kind of check it out, just
Right.
because like the way like you can never tell how far. I mean, and that's what I think the Oculus Rift will help with this, but you can never tell. You never have the ability to like gauge the distance. Like you can never see or like be able to judge how far like the front of your car is or where the sides of your car is to be able to avoid walls and collisions and stuff like that. I feel like you're better set with that third-person view and be able to see everything around you.
See, I like the fact that, my eyes are 6 inches from the pavement, and I can kind of see how exactly close to the edge of that corner I am, and, just kind of riding right up on someone's tire. Like, I like that, sitting really close to the TV feeling that first person kind of gives you for racing games.
Yeah, well, I will say, and I stay away from racing games because I am very prone to motion sickness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Oculus would make me vomit instantly if I would try a racing game with it on. Team Fortress was too much for me. And I think Joel does have a pretty good point with how blurry it is, and that really affecting you. But just the overall immersion of it, just seeing things go past your peripheral, is enough to make me have some of those queasy feelings.
Do you think the higher definition will fix that, though?
No.
No, you think it's just the environment?
I don't know. I'll try it. I definitely won't be an early adopter.
I think.
Well, we're going to buy them, so you can come to one of our houses. At least Ryan and I will have them, so try it before you buy it.
Right.
I think on some level, and I think the only way to really address those motion sickness issues that people are going to have is to really program stuff like that to work how our brains actually work with our eyes. Because,
you mean like, moving the balls without moving your head kind of thing?
No, I mean like, you know how like you look at a clock and you look away and you look back at the clock for like a split second, but like, like maybe a second's passed, but it looks like the clock was the exact same position as it was. You know that phenomenon? Anyone?
Yeah, like phantom vision.
Right. Like, there's a reason that happens. Like, our brains can't process the information fast enough of us looking, like turning our heads or turning our eyes darting around that fast all the time. They can't process the information fast enough for us to constantly have that kind of stuff being filtered through. And I think for them to address any kind of motion sickness issues, they kind of have to operate, they have to design it to operate on that same level. Like, when you turn your head and you look somewhere, like, you're going to render all those images in between, right?
Yeah.
And that's where Neil comes up with that refresh rate. You're going to render all those images in between, okay? Now, when you're that deeply immersed in it, your brain's not going to separate it from what, like, that's what you actually think you're seeing, okay? So you're going to get all that imagery as you turn your head, as opposed to what would normally happen is if you turn your head fast, you're actually going to get that, like it's going to be delayed a little bit. Like, you're going to get, like, stop motion, sort of.
Yeah, I understand what I totally agree. I think that the motion and kind of getting used to that type of vision, because it's not natural vision. It will never be natural vision. I think is going to be a major obstacle for a lot of people. And, unfortunately, will probably shut a lot of people out of the technology. I don't know if there's a solution right now. I think that this being the first proper consumer VR that I am aware of. We've all, back in the 90s played those really shitty kind of VR goggles with the bright red polygons and then the Virtual Boy, which caused seizures and death of small children. But this is the first thing that actually felt like a true step forward for this technology. And while the first generation may not be accessible for everyone, I am confident for people like, Neil, who are maybe a little bit more sensitive to motion sickness, or our friend Dan, who can't even play first-person shooters on a stationary screen. I'm really hoping that they're eventually going to find a solution for that.
I think it is definitely the first piece of like VR tech that I've seen. I mean, it's really aside from like the Virtual Boy, like the first one that I've really experienced. And obviously, comparing the two is
Virtual Boy is a giant hunk of shit. I'm sorry, I love you, Nintendo.
Comparing those two is like comparing shit to gold, really.
Or Assassin's Creed 3 to Assassin's Creed 4.
Well, I haven't really played either of those, so I can't really. I think there's like, for me personally, there's not enough of a draw for me to want to buy it. Like, I think a game like I think a game that would be really cool would be like Skyrim.
Oh yeah.
With that, or like any of those like first-person kind of like RPG sort of things. I don't think I could play a shooter game. And then beyond that, like the games that I play typically aren't first-person, so it doesn't really, it doesn't really loan itself for me to want that technology in the first place. But like, a game like Skyrim would be, or like Fallout, like. Would be like amazing with that because of the immersion and like the fact that usually you're going to play those games for that kind of thing. So I feel like that would be a big draw for it. But
I feel like we're not going to be playing normal games. At a certain point, there are going to be games designed. We're doing it now because that's what we have and that's what we're used to and that's what we can just kind of jump in and play. And maybe this isn't the best example, but that Dolphin High School game or whatever, which is first person, but isn't really about, you're not walking around, you're not moving. Like, those are the kind of experiences, like, I could imagine, a puzzle game that would be neat to be able to walk around and view things, a first-person puzzle game and things like that. I think the technology, part of the reason they have them as a dev kit and not, just selling them right away is give people a chance to experiment with this technology and see how they can change games versus, okay, I'm probably going to play, Half-Life 2 on it because I know that game like the back of my hand, but is that going to be the best experience I have?
I think it'll be incredibly interesting when they start like pairing that technology with like your Kinect technology, with like these motion sensor technologies, where just take the controller out of the equation.
Just walk around a room.
Well, just for that kind of immersion, interact with things, with your hands. I don't know. I think that might be a different level of cool. Like playing Myst through that and actually interacting.
Well, there's that Razer one-to-one motion controller, which is basically like the PC Wiimote. Is actually supposed to be really, really nice with the Oculus Rift. It's not that full, like you said, body tracking or full hand tracking, but I agree. I think you can't use a gamepad with something like the Oculus Rift and expect to move forward. Like, it's old tech.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, on some level though, like for me too, is while that's cool and there's novelty to it, I like still being separated from the game itself. And I feel like once you get to that point where you're actually kind of like putting yourself into it, I don't know, it gets weird for me.
Sure.
Like the fact that it cuts off your peripherals entirely, and like the fact that you were pretty much isolating yourself to inside this one thing. I don't. It's to me, it's a little disturbing too. It's just a little unnerving, like the fact that I can't really perceive my surroundings except for sound.
If I play a game like Amnesia, I'm literally going to shit my pants. Like,
I mean, that's,
I am not misusing that.
There is
If
that.
a monster jumps out at me, I am going to defecate in my drawers. Like,
see, but I'm the other way around. Like, that's the kind of game I would want to play like that because.
Oh, it's going to be
that's, like,
amazing. I'll buy new pants. Like, that's fine.
I'll buy
Right.
new pants.
But at the same time, for me, it comes down to, I don't know, it's a novelty thing, and it's not something that I really perceive myself really going out of my way to stick with. You know, it's like a thing that I could do. I could get maybe a couple hours of fun out of, but I don't know if it would be. I mean,
A replacement
God
for your.
knows how much it's gonna. What's that?
Oh, sorry. What did you say?
I was just gonna say, I just don't see it replacing conventional gaming for me.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. I think there is going to be two camps. I mean, first of all, there has to be because, while we're all PC and console and, whatever gamers, there is a very large majority that sit at home, play on their Xbox, play the games that they play, who this isn't even an option for them. But I think what is going to happen, obviously Sony's been developing, Valve has been developing kind of similar stuff. You're going to see it kind of very specific applications. And maybe it'll end up like the PlayStation Move. Maybe eventually somebody will create a full room holographic display and we'll just kind of move on for that. But I think for something that costs less than the price of a console and is going to be out in the next 5 years, I can't help but be excited for.
See, but is it going to cost less than a console?
What I have heard from Nate's friend and just around the web that they are trying to make it sub $300.
See, that's still too much for me. Like,
I'm gonna agree.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's
Like,
not an investment. I'm just saying if you put in front of me right now a 1080p Oculus Rift and a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One console, fuck those consoles. I will buy the Oculus Rift first. Like, that to me is no question. But I'm a PC gamer, a lot of my games are on the computer.
I just feel like I'm going to get much more limited use out of that than I would a console. I mean, I can't really compare it to the consoles now because like just came out recently.
Also, there's no goddamn game, so what are you going to play on it?
So exactly, but like, I don't know. To me, it's kind of like it's almost a gimmick in some way. Like, look at like, I mean, comparable to like the Wii, or like even maybe not to some lesser extent like the Kinect. Like the Kinect. From everything I've seen, I've yet to see a game that was like well implemented using the Kinect.
They don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not
That's
saying
not to say that they couldn't, though.
right, and it's not to say that like there aren't going to be games that are well implemented on the Rift. It's just.
I'm not going to argue
It's
with you
something
the
I-
fact it is a gimmick. There's no question about that. But it is, at least for me, it is my kind of gimmick. It is, a Guitar Hero controller or a Donkey Congo drums. Like, those are my fucking gimmicks. Like, whatever, fine. Like, they're stupid and I have one use for it, but I have to have it. What that says about me as a consumer, maybe not very good, but yeah, it's never going to replace your console. It's never going to replace your, big screen TV or your high resolution monitor. Like you said, those games like Elder Scrolls Online and, even Might and Magic and games like that, you can't really do. It's not necessary.
But if that's the way the industry is trending, like if this is going to be the future of it,
It's not.
don't
It's
know.
going to be an offshoot. I mean, for God's sakes, they still make picture hunt games. There is going to be an industry for those people. Like, everyone's not going to jump on the Oculus Rift and that's going to be the only thing around. It's going to be the assholes who make the, racing wheel seat in their house so that they can play racing games. Like, those are the kind of people that are going to adopt this stuff first. And while these things are going to continue to exist, like the Razer Hydra and racing wheels and that $3,000 Xbox controller to control a mech, like, they're always going to exist, but gaming is still going to have to cater to everyone, whether it's on their phone or on their console or sitting in front of a computer for a couple hours playing a Facebook game. Like things aren't going to go away. It's just excited to see a piece of technology that lets you create different games than you were able to before.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it is by far the coolest of the gimmicks so far.
I don't know, man. Rock Band is pretty sweet.
I'll be honest, from the get-go, I was not like when they started advertising for the Kinect and stuff like that. I was like, wow, they're just totally trying to copy the Wii, and the Wii success, and they didn't do a good job with it. And like even the Wii though, like honestly, I didn't buy the Wii for the gimmick. I bought it for Super Smash Brothers.
Sure.
And like Metroid and stuff like that. I had really no interest in the fact that it was motion controlled at all. Like that stuff doesn't really appeal to me that much. But I'll be honest, the Oculus Rift is cool. If it ever costs like maybe like $150 or less, I'd consider it.
The first one won't, but they will. Like there's no doubt in my mind it'll be the price of a monitor.
I mean, there better be some really cool fucking games that come out for it, because we're gonna get a lot of shit games too.
Absolutely. You could say that about anything. Look at all the current consoles. The first round are always crap. It's high-res ports and kind of shoehorned upgrades. Like that's always going to exist.
But I just feel like you're gonna get a couple developers that actually make like decent games for it, and then you're just gonna get all the shit games, and it's just gonna. And what's gonna happen is, well, I guess maybe not, but I feel like a lot of that is gonna. I don't know.
I think overall it's exciting, but I guess just to move quickly on to news. I don't have a lot of news. The real thing I just want to point out is on February 26th, Polygon published an article about a shareholder for Nintendo named Seth Fisher. I'm going to quote, "We believe Nintendo can create very profitable games based on in-game revenue models with the right development team. Just think of paying 99 cents just to get Mario to jump a little higher." I just want to say to Seth Fisher, you can go fuck yourself. You are the worst, scummy piece of shit. The video game industry does not need people like you. Fuck you.
Can you reread that, please?
"We believe Nintendo can create very profitable games based on in-game revenue models with the right development team. Just think of paying 99 cents just to get Mario to jump a little higher." That is fucking disgusting.
It honestly sounds like he's being sarcastic.
I hope so.
You have to. It's like someone just saying just the most deplorable thing at a party, and you're like, you have to be joking. There's no possible way that can be your thought process.
Right.
And, maybe he's an investor. Maybe he doesn't play video games, and he's just looking for an opportunity to make an extra buck. But those kind of people just fucking ruin. I mean, not to get soapboxy, not to kind of get off on a tear. I just wanted to point out this piece of shit, and those are the kind of people affecting video games. But, these new free-to-play games that are coming on iOS, your Dungeon Keepers and your Plants vs. Zombies, and games that are starting to get crippled by free-to-play. Obviously, there's going to be a certain amount of people that buy those games, so there's going to be a certain amount of people that rally against them and just don't buy them. They're going to exist, but I swear to God, if you fucking ruin Nintendo, I am going to freak the fuck out. It just rubbed me the wrong way, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. I have a very special place in my heart for Nintendo. That is the console of my childhood. I will buy their systems as long as they come out. I will make my kids play Nintendo, but I swear, if Nintendo adopts these policies, I will fucking drop them. That is my rant. That is, other than Nintendo is closing their Wi-Fi for Wii and DS, that is starting May 20th.
What?
No more Super Smash Brothers Brawl online.
Yeah, they're shutting down some of the online functionality, like matchmaking, Smash Brothers Brawl, Animal Crossing, Mario Kart Wii. Let's be honest, who really played those games online that often? Not to say that people don't, but you didn't buy a Wii to play online. We were talking about this when we were all together for game night. Nintendo
Yeah.
are the consoles that you invite your friends over, now that we're adults, for a couple beers, and some food and to play games. It is not, the Call of Duty. It is not the, Battlefield, these online-only games. While it's sad, we'll see.
It's one of the few consoles left that's actually a console and not just a watered-down PC.
Sure. And it's taking functionality away from a console. It's not great. You kind of have a reason to be a little outraged if you play this stuff online. It wasn't very long. Oh, actually, that's a lie. I guess the Nintendo Wii has been out for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's just the Nintendo DS and DSi. Obviously, the 3DS newer models are going to continue their functionality. But so if you planned on playing your Pokemon Battle Revolution or your Mario Kart Wii, get on and play it because you got about 2 weeks.
Is it just for matchmaking? So like
let me see
Netflix
if I
and
can
stuff
find
like that, is that still going to work through there?
Oh,
No,
that's
they're just shutting down the servers.
That's
too much.
Oh, yes. Okay, here we go. Browsers for the DS and DSi will be accessible beyond the date, as well as Wii's delivery channel, Hulu, internet channels, YouTube, things like that. Yeah,
Holy
so it's really just they're shutting down their servers, right? They're back-end game servers. They're matchmaking.
What about the Nintendo Store via Wii?
Yeah, that's still being kept up. Of course, that's
Okay.
got to be kept up.
Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah, that's a good business move. I don't think anybody can really be mad about it. It's been
No,
how
it's
long?
more sad than enraging. It happened. Xbox Live shut down. PlayStation Online, shuts down at a certain point. Like these things, you have to expect. But again, it's Nintendo news, and I have to talk about everything that goes on with Nintendo. So, but yeah, that was pretty much all I had. Again, we are the Pixel Ship Podcast. You can find us at pixelship.net. We have email, Facebook, and Twitter if you want to reach out to us on the website. I have been Ryan Hayes with Joel Hartlove,
Yep.
Ryan Blandy,
I am here.
and our very special guest, Neil Lebo. Thanks for joining us today, Neil.
Yeah, no problem.
And we will talk to you all next week.